They wanted to destroy me in front of 200 people. The CEO pointed her manicured finger at me like a loaded weapon and made a bet that would either make me rich or ruin my life forever. Fix this $2 million machine that MIT engineers couldn't repair, and I'll marry you right here, she snarled. When you fail, security will escort you out permanently. What she didn't know was that I'd been hiding a secret for 3 years, and this broken engine was about to reveal everything. My name is Marcus Thompson, and this is how I went from invisible janitor to proving that genius doesn't come with a college degree. The smell of motor oil still clings to my work clothes as I tell you this. It connects me to my grandfather's garage, to late nights studying engineering manuals, and to the moment when everything changed at Apex Innovations. They called me a janitor. Technically, my badge read Facilities Coordinator, but everyone knew what I really did. I emptied trash cans, mopped floors, and endured the daily humiliation of being the most educated custodian in Silicon Valley. For 3 years, I'd pushed my maintenance cart through these halls, invisible to executives who stepped around me like furniture. Apex Innovations rose from the tech landscape like a monument to ambition. The 40-story tower housed America's most promising autonomous vehicle company, where billion-dollar dreams took shape in sterile laboratories and boardrooms that reeked of leather and arrogance. Catherine Morgan had built this empire with ruthless precision. At 39, she commanded respect through fear. Her auburn hair was always pulled into a perfect chignon, her suits tailored to intimidate. The tech world called her a visionary. Her employees whispered different words behind closed doors. The company's crown jewel sat broken on the executive conference table, a revolutionary AI-guided engine designed to power their fleet of self-driving delivery trucks. It represented 3 years of development, 52 patents, and the engineering dreams of Silicon Valley's brightest minds. For 7 weeks, this engine had defied every attempt at repair. For separate teams of Ivy League engineers had failed. The machine would run for exactly 14 minutes, then overheat and shut down with the same cryptic error, harmonic disruption detected. But I knew something they didn't. Let me tell you about my real education. Detroit, 1995. Samuel Thompson's garage on 8 Mile Road still hummed with purpose while the auto industry bled jobs. At 72, my grandfather moved with the deliberate grace of a master craftsman, his weathered hands reading engines like sacred texts. At 12, I pressed my face against the garage window, watching him work magic on a broken Mustang declared dead by 3 other mechanics. Samuel saw something they missed. His fingers traced the engine block with the tenderness of a doctor examining a patient. "Come here, boy," Samuel called without looking up. "Time you learned something useful." That summer changed everything. While other kids played video games, I spent my days in the cathedral of grease and steel that was my grandfather's domain. Samuel had been one of the first black foremen at Ford Motor Company, breaking barriers in the 1970s when such achievements required extraordinary courage. "Listen close," Samuel would say, placing my small hand on a running engine. "This machine's got a heartbeat. Feel that rhythm? That's 4 cylinders talking to each other, 8,000 explosions per minute, all working in perfect harmony." The old man's philosophy was profound. "Son, an engine doesn't care about your diploma or your skin color. It only responds to those who truly listen to its heartbeat. Respect the machine, understand its language, and it'll never lie to you." Samuel taught me to diagnose problems through sound, vibration, even smell. A slight irregularity in engine rhythm could indicate worn bearings. A particular scent might reveal oil degradation. These weren't skills taught in textbooks, they were inherited wisdom, passed down through generations who understood that machines had souls. White folks gonna test you twice as hard, he told me during those long summer afternoons. Gonna assume you're half as smart, but engines don't lie, boy. When you fix something they couldn't, suddenly your color doesn't matter so much. By 16, I could tear down and rebuild entire engines blindfolded. I understood the intricate dance of pistons, valves, and timing chains better than most automotive engineers. Community college professors were amazed by my intuitive grasp of mechanical principles. But life had other plans. Samuel died during my senior year of high school, a massive heart attack while working under a Cadillac's hood. The funeral overflowed with Ford engineers, mechanics, and customers whose cars Samuel had saved. They spoke of his genius, his integrity, his ability to solve impossible problems with simple solutions. When my mother was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer during my sophomore year of community college, the choice was clear. Transfer to a 4-year university meant student loans, living expenses, and time away from home. My mother needed me more than I needed a prestigious degree. I worked 3 jobs while completing my associate degree in mechanical engineering, nights at a gas station, weekends at an auto parts store, early mornings cleaning office buildings. My grades remained perfect despite exhaustion that left me sleeping in library chairs between classes. Dr. Martinez, who taught at MIT before settling into quieter academic life, pulled me aside after a brilliant presentation on engine efficiency optimization. "You have a gift," she said simply. "I've seen Harvard graduates with less intuitive understanding of mechanical systems. But circumstances were relentless. Cancer treatments consumed every spare dollar. After graduation, I found work wherever I could use my skills. Eventually landing at Apex Innovations through a temporary agency that promised technical consultant opportunities. The reality was different, but the paycheck covered my mother's medical bills. 3 years later, I still carried my grandfather's philosophy like a sacred flame. Every night, I studied engineering journals, keeping my knowledge current despite my custodial duties. Meanwhile, the engine crisis deepened daily. Catherine's morning meetings grew louder, her demands more unreasonable. She paced the boardroom like a caged predator, her heels clicking against marble in sharp, angry rhythms. 67 million, she screamed at the engineering team. That's what we lose if this engine doesn't work by Friday. The engineers, Harvard, MIT, Stanford graduates, sat frozen in expensive suits, their laptops displaying the same error codes they'd stared at for weeks. Team leader David Brooks had dark circles under his eyes. His team had tried everything. Software patches, hardware replacements, complete system reinstalls. Catherine's eyes swept the room like searchlights, hunting for someone to blame. "Maybe we have too many people who don't belong here," she said, her gaze lingering on me as I replaced the water pitcher. Dead weight dragging down our entire operation. I pretended not to hear. I'd learned that invisibility was survival in this place. But my engineering mind couldn't stop analyzing the problem. Late at night, when I mopped the boardroom floors, I'd study the engine's blueprints left scattered on the table. The technical specifications told a story the engineers seemed to miss. The engine was built in Germany using metric measurements, but the AI calibration software was developed in California using imperial units. A simple conversion error could create cascading problems. The German investors arrived Wednesday, their black Mercedes sedans pulling up like a funeral procession. These men represented 100 million euros in potential funding. Klaus Weber, CEO of Autotech Bavaria, had flown from Munich to evaluate the engine technology. His reputation for technical perfectionism was legendary. Dr. Elena Martinez, former Tesla engineer, accompanied the delegation. Her reputation in automotive engineering was legendary. She designed power systems that revolutionized electric vehicles and held 37 patents. Thursday morning brought chaos. The final diagnostic test failed spectacularly, filling the boardroom with smoke and triggering the fire suppression system. Engineers stood dripping wet, their expensive laptops ruined, their reputations hanging by threads. Klaus Weber watched the disaster with Germanic stoicism. Dr. Martinez took detailed notes. The other German investors exchanged glances that suggested their private jets might be departing early. Catherine convened an emergency all-hands meeting. 200 employees packed into the main auditorium, their faces reflecting panic and resignation. The German investors sat in the front row. I stood in the back near the emergency exits, invisible as always. Ladies and gentlemen, Catherine began, her voice steady despite trembling hands. We face our greatest challenge. Our revolutionary engine remains non-operational. Our engineering teams have exhausted conventional solutions. She paused, letting failure's weight settle on the room. Effective immediately, we will begin cost reduction measures. Non-essential personnel will be terminated, starting with positions that don't directly contribute to solving this crisis. The room fell silent except for muffled sobs from the back rows. Catherine's gaze swept across faces, hunting for someone to sacrifice. Her eyes lingered on me with predatory interest. That's when I made my mistake. I raised my hand. Ma'am, my voice carried clearly through the acoustics. I think the problem might be in the harmonic frequency calibration, not the software integration. 200 heads turned toward me like sunflowers following light. The German investors leaned forward with sudden interest. Dr. Martinez raised an eyebrow, her expression shifting from boredom to curiosity. Catherine's face transformed. Surprise gave way to rage, then to something more dangerous, opportunity. A cruel smile spread across her lips as a better idea crystallized. Well, she said, her voice amplified through the sound system. Our maintenance consultant has an opinion about advanced engineering. She stepped away from the podium, her red heels clicking against the stage. Marcus Thompson, isn't it? The man who empties our trash cans thinks he understands what 67 MIT graduates couldn't solve. Nervous laughter rippled through the audience. This was corporate blood sport, and everyone knew it. Since you're so confident, Catherine continued with theatrical flair, here's your chance to prove it. Fix our $2 million engine that stumped our best engineers for 7 weeks. Do it in front of everyone. Our board, our investors, our entire company. She gestured toward the German delegation. These gentlemen represent 100 million euros in potential funding. Let's give them a show they'll never forget. Here are the stakes, Marcus. You have exactly 2 hours to diagnose and repair what our MIT-trained engineers couldn't fix. If you succeed, which we both know you won't, I'll personally promote you to senior engineering consultant. The auditorium buzzed with shocked murmurs. Senior engineering consultant positions paid 6 figures and came with stock options. But when you fail, Catherine continued, her smile sharp, you're not just fired. You're banned from this building permanently. Security will escort you out, and I'll ensure that every tech company in Silicon Valley knows about your spectacular failure. Dr. Martinez stood up suddenly, commanding attention throughout the room. I'll serve as technical witness, she announced. This test requires neutral oversight to ensure fairness and accuracy. Klaus Weber nodded approvingly. Excellent. Herr Thompson, you have our complete attention. We are curious to see American problem-solving methods. I stood motionless throughout this corporate circus, my maintenance cart beside me like a faithful companion. This was the moment Samuel Thompson had prepared me for through a lifetime of understanding that engines responded to competence regardless of credentials. Dr. Martinez walked down the aisle, stopping directly in front of me, studying my face with decades of experience evaluating technical talent. "Young man," she said quietly, "are you absolutely certain you want to proceed? Your entire future is at stake." I met her gaze steadily. "Ma'am, I've been listening to engines my whole life. This one's been trying to tell us what's wrong. We just haven't been hearing it correctly." Dr. Martinez nodded slowly. Something in my eyes reminded her of young engineers she'd mentored at Tesla, that combination of knowledge, intuition, and quiet confidence that separated true talent from mere education. "Very well," she said. "Let's see what you can do." The crowd moved toward the executive floor, smartphones recording every step. The executive boardroom transformed into an amphitheater of judgment. 200 employees pressed against the glass walls, their faces creating a mosaic of anticipation and doubt. The German investors arranged themselves in executive leather chairs like a tribunal. Dr. Martinez positioned herself beside the engine with the authority of someone who'd witnessed countless moments of engineering truth. The broken engine dominated the conference table like a technological altar. Its sleek carbon fiber housing gleamed under LED lights, but I could see subtle signs of stress that others had missed. "Begin whenever you're ready," Dr. Martinez said. 2 hours starting now." I approached the engine like my grandfather had taught me, with respect, patience, and complete attention. The room fell silent except for smartphones recording every movement. First, I simply listened. I placed my hands on different parts of the housing, feeling for vibrations, temperature variations, any clue that might reveal the machine's distress. The German investors watched with intense curiosity. "What exactly are you doing?" Catherine demanded. "Every engine has its own heartbeat," I replied. "This one's been trying to tell us something for 7 weeks. We just need to learn its language." I opened my maintenance cart and pulled out tools that surprised everyone, precision instruments I'd collected over years of studying engines. Digital calipers, electromagnetic field detectors, harmonic analyzers that I'd built myself from salvaged electronics. Dr. Martinez stepped closer. "Those are sophisticated diagnostic tools. Where did you acquire them?" "Built most of them myself," I said, connecting a harmonic analyzer to the housing. You can learn a lot from technical manuals and salvaged components when you can't afford commercial versions. The analyzer immediately revealed what 7 weeks of conventional diagnostics had missed. The engine's natural harmonic frequency was being disrupted by a simple calibration error, exactly what I'd suspected. The engine was designed in Germany using metric specifications, I explained, my confidence growing as data confirmed my theory. But the AI calibration software was developed here using imperial measurements. The conversion algorithms are creating a harmonic mismatch. Dr. Martinez pulled out her notebook, scribbling rapid calculations. That would manifest as periodic overheating cycles exactly matching the symptoms we've observed. Klaus Weber stood up, moving closer to examine my diagnostic equipment. "This is quite impressive, Herr Thompson. You constructed these instruments yourself?" "Yes, sir. My grandfather taught me that understanding comes from working with your hands, not just reading manuals." I began adjusting the engine's internal calibration settings, correcting the metric imperial conversion errors causing the harmonic disruption. The work required precision, patience, and intuitive understanding of how mechanical and digital systems communicated. Catherine paced behind the investors like a caged animal, her frustration evident. This wasn't going according to her script. The janitor she'd planned to humiliate was demonstrating expertise that surpassed her own engineering team. "Even if you're right about the calibration," she said, desperation creeping into her voice, "there's no way you can fix 7 weeks of damage in 2 hours." "Ma'am," I replied, not pausing in my work, "the damage isn't structural. It's just confused software trying to control properly functioning hardware. Once we teach them to speak the same language, everything should work perfectly." An hour and 30 minutes later, I completed the calibration adjustments. The engine sat silently on the conference table, no different in appearance but fundamentally transformed in function. 200 people held their breath as I prepared for the moment of truth. "Dr. Martinez," I said formally, "would you like to do the honors?" She nodded, reaching for the engine start switch with the solemnity of someone conducting a sacred ritual. The machine hummed to life with a sound completely different from its previous tortured operation. The harmonic disruption was gone. The engine ran smoothly, efficiently, its AI and mechanical components working in perfect synchronization. Digital displays showed optimal performance across every metric. 14 minutes passed. 15. 20. 30. The engine continued running flawlessly, producing the kind of performance that would revolutionize the autonomous vehicle industry. The boardroom erupted in stunned silence that gradually gave way to amazed murmurs, then to scattered applause that built into a thunderous ovation. Klaus Weber stood up, his Germanic composure finally cracking. "Herr Thompson," he said, "that was perhaps the most impressive display of practical engineering intelligence I have witnessed in 30 years of industrial evaluation." Dr. Martinez was already drafting notes, her excitement evident. The diagnostic approach, the homemade instruments, the intuitive problem-solving, this is exactly the kind of innovative thinking that transforms industries. Catherine stood frozen, her face cycling through expressions of shock, rage, and finally, defeated amazement. The janitor she'd planned to destroy had just saved her company. "The bet was senior engineering consultant," I said quietly, meeting her eyes directly for the first time in 3 years. "But more than that, I want respect for everyone who works here, regardless of their title or background." Klaus Weber stepped forward, extending his hand. "Herr Thompson, Autotech Bavaria would be honored to offer you a position in our Advanced Development Division." The offer hung in the air like an impossible dream. But I looked around the room at the faces of my former colleagues, the janitors and maintenance staff who still remained invisible to management. "Thank you, sir, but I think I'll stay here," I said. "This company needs to learn that genius comes in all forms, and that everyone deserves a chance to contribute their talents." As the crowd began to disperse, still buzzing with amazement, Catherine approached me with an expression I'd never seen before, genuine respect mixed with something that might have been shame. "Marcus," she said, using my first name for the first time ever, "I owe you an apology. And apparently, I owe you a promotion."